The Yamato Empire battles a rival kingdom that occupies the Kanto Plain. The rebel king, Tamaki, invaded the region around Mount Fuji. Consequently, the Fuji River became the militarized border between the two powers, with constant causalities on both sides. During this civil war, hundreds Korean families migrated into Kyushu and the Kinai Plain. The reason? The Korean peninsula was fragmented by military and social unrest in and between the tiny rival countries. This made the stable Yamato regime attractive for young people. During this war, a Roman envoy arrived in Kinai, with the initiative to extend Roman commerce in Southeast Asia to East Asia. The Yamato benefited from trade with Roman trade settlements in Southeast Asia, and the country increased in much agricultural products. 2 years later, Emperor Quirinus sent cargo with tribute for the shaman impresario. The Yamato elites didn't trust this gesture. Especially not after the Ryukyu ambassador informed them that the Romans annexed the Ryukyu Islands and stationed a military settlement. This news caused a sense of uncertainty and dread in Yamato society, which contained around 3.5 million people. Especially, the Korean immigrants, which were around 175,000, were troubled by the developments. But in the fertile plain between the Kaiso and Akashi mountains there were small towns that, due to their isolated location, didn't notice any consequence of the developments that happened outside the plain. It was a safe and quiet place, despite being located close to a militarized zone. In this buffer district, inside a fortified town, lived 100 monks, 200 prisoners, and there was a fort that was used by the shaman elite. In this fort lived 20 slave shamans. These young women performed oracles and dance rituals on command. One of them was a British Roman slave that was sent as a gift to the impresario. This woman, Baudine, decided to write in order to avoid boredom. "Dear Ayodai-sama, today we performed a dance at the wedding of a local chieftain. There were around 70 attendees to the ceremony. The priests sacrifices 2 oxen and 5 birds to request favor from the gods on behalf of the married couple. We were exhausted afterwards. We were allowed to join the banquet that followed. We ate vegetables and carrot soup. One of us was requested to tell the fortune of one of the attendees. It was a noble woman that desired to divorce her husband due to some sexual dysfunction. Kaiko, after the seance, made plain that her husband's dysfunction was the result of her own negative attitude towards him. A divorce would cause much shame to befall her. The noble women offered 50 pieces of silver in order for us to fix the issue. 2 days later she came with her husband. The husband was in his 60s and bald. He was also a bit obese. He wore no expensive clothes. Kaiko and the others did our thing. As usual. The money was handed over to the landlord. They left after 2 hours. A week later we heard, through rumors, that the husband cheated. Well, she wanted us to fix the issue. So we did. She didn't want to listen to us when we tried to warn her that the quick fix simultaneously with the instant relief might increase damage over time. The landlord ordered silk costumes for us at our request. We are invited by the King of Nobai to perform on his wedding anniversary. He would pay with 3,000 bronze plates. His anniversary is just 2 weeks before the winter equinox. To travel to his palace takes 2 full days. From there it is an additional week before we arrive at your fortress. My request is to visit your fortress after we've performed for the Nobai household. I would delight in eating fresh rabbit meat with seasoned shrimps when I arrive. The letter was transported by one of the troops. The military was the only way people from this plane had contact with the outside world. Baudine, who wrote the letter, often writes poetic pieces in her spare time. She is called the blonde one at the fort. The fort has 3 large cabins, 1 tall wall and 2 towers. There's also a large basement with an inner underground garden. There was a small channel made between the stream and the fort, which provided the fort with fresh water 24/7. The fort was guarded by 50 troops. Every 3 days merchants would arrive with supplies for the inhabitants of the fort. The soldiers were provided for by the Yamato state. The shaman girls were personal slaves of the shaman empress. She has around 20 convents, each convent containing between 20 to 40 slaves, of them spread throughout the country. At her own private fortress she has over 2,300 that serve her. Each convent resides in a fort, guarded by the military. The forts were located near small streams, in forests, remotely removed from crowded places. All the money that the convents made were collected by the landlords who managed their income. Besides provision for food, clothes, water and makeup, the remainder of the money had to be sent to the treasury of Yamato. The letter was received by the empress. While reading it, she was distracted by the Lord Tsuki, a well-respected politician. Lord Tsuki. What's so urgent? We have to change our strategy towards the Korean immigration. Then why are you here? I'm not appointed to make decisions in such matters. I need you to request insight from the gods upon this issue. What for? Isn't the immigration beneficial to Yamato? It also causes unintended consequences. Everything in politics causes unintended consequences. We both know that. You've been in politics for over 30 years. 35 years. 35 years. I've been on the throne for over 30 years since I was selected by the Yamato ministers. You were one of them, to succeed as head of state. I have seen much tragedy and insanity unfold before my eyes, both in the spirit world as in the natural realm. Much of it was caused by our own doing. This migration wave into Yamato was something planned decades before I was even born. Why is it suddenly a problem? The Korean countries are losing much of their young population. Why does that concern us? Their youth is streaming into Yamato like a river. They are building their own communities and businesses in Yamato. They, however, remain attached to their homeland. Among the youth, there are also many noble children. The nobles even enjoy great respect in Yamato among the Korean immigrants. That's a good sign. That means that we don't have to police them. They are policing themselves. It goes deeper than that. How deep? They are bringing their domestic rivalries and conflicts with them. They are troubling both each other and the Yamato people among whom they live. It's causing much concern among the Yamato kings that this policy might disrupt the stability of our nation. Then we incorporate their leaders into our system. By doing this, we will connect ourselves more with the Korean peninsula. This will also grant the Korean rulers to influence much of our domestic policies. They already are. Why do you think so many immigrants flow into our country? They are pressured by their domestic leaders to flee towards us. It's a form of population control. The excess of the population is dumped with us. And they are using this migration wave to extend their territory. You understand it well. It's futile. That doesn't mean it won't have an impact. I know what I'm talking about. You are not the first statesman to inquire me about this problem. There isn't much that we can do about it. Those 10,000 households from Korea are already among us. They have been around for almost 4 generations. They will not leave anytime soon. We need to domesticate them into Yamato society. They need to learn our language and adapt to our customs, which are quite similar to their own. They will need to contribute to sending their sons into the military. We are not certain if they are willingly to do this. What do you suggest, statesman? We need to invade. No way. Just listen. Why do we need to invade Korea? Again? It will give an outlet for the unemployment in the country. Yes, but it will also cause tensions that will last for generations. We don't need that kind of negativity. Negativity binds people together. It works. Yes. It works way too well. What do we do with those immigrants? We deploy them. With the invasion of their own country? Yamato is their country. The moment they decided to build their lives into our territory, they enabled us to rule over them. They owe you their allegiance. If you want to campaign against Korea, go ahead. Just remember that we already have a fierce battle in the east. This battle has been going on for almost a decade. Hundreds of troops perished. And for what? The blood of the troops are ceding life to the Yamato nation. We need more fresh blood of the young to give life to our country. The Empress walks towards her chair. This is the way to incorporate the immigrants into our nation. You're right. I'm just horrified of the idea of all those maimed and dismembered bodies. You will not be witnessing it. You are safer at your court. Listen. If you plan any attack, do it after the winter solstice. I want to visit one of the eastern convents afterwards. Which one? The Kaiso convent. When exactly do you plan to leave? I'm not sure. I just received a letter of Baudine. Who is that? That Roman? Yes. That Roman slave. She's writing Chinese? She adapted well to live her in Asia. She has also become popular at my court. Due to complaints against her influence, I sent her towards the Kaiso plain. I will travel to the Kaiso plain right before the equinox takes place. About 5 days before. I will remain there for a month or 2. You will be able to meet me over there when you need me. Only for emergencies. I want to left alone when I'm over there. I understand. Good. And what happened to those Romans on Ryukyu? They founded a colony in the main island of the Ryukyu. They stationed the fleet that controls all maritime commerce from and to the Ryukyu people. In short, they annexed them. That's a rude way of putting it. There's no other way to put it. We should be happy that they only send an envoy to us and not an army. They also have a small colony inside the Jin dynasty. And in the Funan kingdom. They are expanding. They want to control the commerce of the Jin dynasty. Who can blame them? China is a mess. They have been since the decline of the Han dynasty. Nobody, however, is so stupid to attempt an annexation of that place. Rome does. Do they? They only care about the money. And they are crazy enough to endanger their own troops to get it. What do you want us to do with them? Let those Romans do what they want. If they wanted to attack us, they would have done that already. Their emperor even sent me a tribute. Over 2 years ago. A tribute is a tribute. It's a sign of respect. Rome does nothing without second thoughts. They want something from us. They already have it. Our compliance. Well, do what you have to do, statesman. When the statesman left, the Empress continued reading the letter of Baudine. Baudine's handwriting improved. During the winter equinox the Kaiso convent were ordered to remain inside the fort. The landlord was ordered by the military to secure shamans from attacks by the population. At this solstice the governor of the town executed 12 criminals. After the criminals were pierced, they were hung at pillars as a warning for future offenders. Against the orders, Baudine and Keiko went to the market. They were shopping for flavored incense. The women wore common silk dresses and a purse containing silver coins. Keiko had 5 silver coins and Baudine 17. She also had 2 aureus coins. The 2 golden Roman coins were a part of the tribute that Emperor Carinus sent towards Yamato. Baudine, however, was never told to hand in the money. So she kept it. She never had any occasion of spending it. Roman currency is valued only when it's silver. The Japanese mines contain much fine gold. So foreign gold isn't valued that much. When the 2 women return towards the fort, they are stopped by the guards. They are mistaken as strangers. It's when Keiko shows their amulet that they are let through. Inside the fort they went to the underground garden to drink fresh water. After Baudine drank from her cup, she spotted her lover. Ayasama. Be quiet, the Empress whispered. I'll see you upstairs. Keiko finished washing her face. Did you say anything? Baudine? Ah no. I was just spacing out. There's still fresh cheese with goat meat upstairs. Be quickly, before it's up. Don't worry. And there's still some of that fruity wine from Kyushu. I really like that one. It also contains much bubbles. The Empress walks away and signs to Baudine to follow her. I'll check out some of that fruity bubble wine. Leave some for me. I will. Upstairs she followed Dio under one of the cabins. Inside, she found Dio laying on a futon pouring wine into cups. She had some letters on the low table in front of her and some vegetables. Close the door. Baudine obeyed. She took her off her sandals, her coat and sat on her knees in front of the Empress. She drank some of the wine. Meanwhile, King Tamaki, his general and his prime minister discussed their strategy coming months. What most people in Yamato and the Kanto Plain didn't realize was that the whole drama between the two countries was a facade. It was a game of divide and rule that they agreed upon to control the population through fear. This was also the elite's way of distracting the population from uniting and fighting against them. King Tamaki, however, didn't reside in the Kanto Plain, but at the Hida Plain, that's at the east of the Hida Mountains and north of the Kaiso Plain. This was Yamato territory where the rule of the regime was almost non-present. It was inhabited by farming families that had almost no concept of urban life at all. They did have big shrines. The Kanto king, his 2 counselors, accompanied by 2 soldiers, remained at a big shrine. The shrine priest was not aware who they were. What shall we do with the Kanto people? Why should we change our policy? There are pro-Yamato sentiments among the people. Many of them prefer to live under Yamato regime than under us. We are part of the Yamato regime. You know what I mean, Prime Minister. They don't know that we are clients of Yamato. They think that their Kanto Empire is real. And it is real. Real as long as they think they are in danger. Once the danger is gone, the whole Kanto nations vaporizes. That won't happen soon. We don't know that. We don't know how things will work out. We don't know if the Yamato will dispose us when they think they don't need us anymore. In order to dispose us, they will need to find another enemy to fight. They will turn against the Ainu. The Ainu live far away. It will cost them way too much to battle them. We are the most convenient enemy. What about Korea? They have way too much Koreans that are part of Yamato society. It will never work as effectively as having a dual regime on Japan. But I understand your concern. It is possible for them to dispose us in the future. Our job is to make sure that they never consider this. They also have to deal with the Romans. The Romans already annexed the Ryukyu people. There are many Roman people that live in the Kanto Bay. They are there for trade. They live in separate villages. The same with the Kinai Bay. There are far more over there. But, hold on. What about that shaman woman? Who? I know so many shamans. I sleep with many of them. I'm not talking about those regular temple prostitutes. I'm talking about that empress that the Yamato have as their ruler. Ayo. She has reached 50 already. Does she have any kids? Some say she has 2 illegitimate children. Those are rumors. As far as the facts concern, she's childless. What about that woman? I, as the general, have sent spies to infiltrate the Kaiso department of the Yamato military. I received news, confirmed and documented, that their shaman empress is now in a Kaiso fort. The Kaiso fort. That's only 1 day away from here. The fort is built at a small stream. If you follow the small stream, you will end up in the basement of that fort. That's the weakness of the fortification. It's also the place where no troops are stationed. We will need to make an offensive on that fort. We will be able to capture Ryo. What will we do afterwards? We will keep her with us, just to make plain to the Yamato that we mean business. They don't really need that woman. They only selected her as Empress 3 decades ago when the people refused to submit to the man that succeeded Empress Himiko. The people were used with a woman as head, so that's why they continued it. They can get rid of her anytime. And Yamato is far more powerful today than it was at its formation. I think we need to see it for ourselves before we mobilize troops all the way over here. Troops are quite expensive. We will go there tonight. We have horses. The horses slept all day long. They are fit to race on the roads. We might reach the place within 3 hours. So, we sneak into the fortress. And we look for the Empress and kidnap her. Fine. Baudine hears some footsteps into the cabin. Weird, she thinks, who would trespass into this cabin at this hour? Baudine freed herself from Io and put her top on and a blanket around her hips. She moved slowly through the cabin. When she moved the curtain, she saw 2 armed intruders right outside the cabin. She quickly closed the curtain. Right on time, because the men noticed as if the curtains moved. She returned and warned Io. We stay inside. And don't make any sound. Io commanded her, if they notice nothing, they will move further away. After a while they saw that the men were joined by a third one. They also saw how 4 of the women became lewd with the men. We need to get out of here, Io. Where do you want to go? It's cold outside. We are far removed from the roads. You're right. Besides, the intruders are entertained. They won't notice us. The next morning, Io and Baudine walked on the marketplace. They encountered some married couples that were having sex in plain sight. They passed by them to reach the gate. The gate was closed. Now what? Don't panic. We just go back. When they returned to the cabin, they were surprised by an attack on the city wall. They could see it from afar, due to the fort being built on a hill. It were forces from Kanto that tried to siege the town. The general later informed the king and prime minister that he had already mobilized 400 troops towards the city. He intended to come up with this plan anyway. Great panic erupted in the town. Also, all the guards moved away from the fort in order to defend the city walls. By evening the town was taken over. It then became clear that this invasion was planned by Kanto. King Tamaki revealed himself and the Yamato troops surrendered unto him. 2 days later, Yamato forces arrived to retake the city. The Empress revealed unto King Tamaki who she was. Tamaki informed Io that the whole Kanto kingdom was a sham of Yamato. I thought about that. Well, now you know. My intent was to bring you over to Kanto in order to make sure the Yamato will secure our position of power. If the Kanto Empire falls, we will lose everything. You want to prevent them from disposing you. You got it? Well, at least you are doing something against it. They will dispose you soon? I'll be succeeded by one of the young shaman girls once I pass away or once they are done with me and kill me. They won't do that. You are valuable for them. Tamaki looked behind her. Who is that European? That's my slave, Baudine. You mean your lover? None of your business. Anyway, what is your plan for now? Negotiate. With who? The Yamato, of course. Will you let us go? Are you nuts? Well, actually I am nuts. I'm seriously thinking that you will let us go. And I'm pressuring you to do it. Where do you want to go? The roads are blocked. You can disguise us so we can leave. No. It's too dangerous. Go inside the fort. Good. That's an order. Tamaki didn't want any harm to befall the Empress. This wouldn't be beneficial to him. Io returned with Baudine back to the fort. Inside they ate dinner with the other women. They didn't bother with the battle outside. On the 4th day, however, Roman troops arrived. The Roman troops were Chinese hireling that the Roman embassy in Ryuka hired in order to preserve their interests in Japan. When the Yamato court heard about the troubles in the Kaiso Plain, they requested the Romano-Chinese troops to assist them. The only reason why the captain of the troops, an Italian by birth, gave in to the request was because a Roman citizen was involved. He was told that the British-born Baudine was the co-empress together with Io. The Roman troops freed the town from the Kanto troops and requested for Empress Baudine. Baudine and the other women were transported towards Lake Biwa, in the client kingdom of the Nat people. Over there, The government gave orders to transport them towards Yusan Island. When they arrived on Yusan, they were well received by the people. 2 months later they heard that the Kanto kingdom was officially dissolved from any independence and incorporated as a client district of Yamato. But now there was a military offensive against the Amishi and Ainu. Baudine realized that it was due to her correspondence with Ayo that Ayo ended up in this mess. What the British woman failed to realize was that even though she was considered just a replaceable slave, with no significant role at all, she still managed to exercise influence on the affairs over there. When the Italian captain requested for Empress Baudine, she felt shocked. She was blind to her own brilliance within the dark circumstances around her. Her unawareness didn't change the fact that she was influential. She was even more influential than Ayo and the Yamato rulers, and this without her intention to be influential. You may be in dark circumstances at this moment. Maybe you don't know how things will become better. So you thought to make the best of it. Just realize, just because you and others don't see your value, that doesn't mean your value is non-existent. There is no such thing as a coincidence. Baudine was divinely positioned at Ayo's favor. Despite the wars, blood and tears she witnessed, her covert faith spread mustard seeds through the Yamato court. Despite the sexual exploitation by Ayo and some of Ayo's servants, her endurance inspired people. Wars, blood, tears and jewels, she wrote in a letter towards the Roman governor at Ryukyu, is what I have here in Asia. She had no idea that her life was just the foundation for future mission work in that region. Her name would be forgotten by the world, but her influence would last forever. Your jewels may be worth more than you realize.